relevant questions of you, hopefully answer some of your more difficult ones. Fire away.
Life cycle costing.
Life cycle costing, yep.
Yeah.
Tried. Allocated yesterday as an attempt to at least start it.
LCC's fun, isn't it? So you've got certain parameters, haven't you? You've got 60 years that you're trying to run this over.
I don't know if it's like fun or not. I really don't really know what to do, I think.
Well, Steve Donahoe
Yeah.
gave
Yeah.
well, that's the main aim of him coming to that particular session, was to try and brief you guys on LCC. And everybody's in the same boat, because they're all doing it. So
Has anyone else flagged it up as an issue or not?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
they haven't. Now that might not be. That might be because they haven't got as far as you, and you know they haven't started tripping over it as an issue. This is not the first time we've set LCC as one of the tasks. We did RCC last. So it's been in there, and in fact, even though it wasn't one of the tasks in years before that, people have done it because they felt, well, if you're costing something out, and it's going to fall apart after 10 years, and I'm going to replace all this. So normally most people will look at lifetimes of materials.
So it's materials.
Yeah,
Not
materials and that form the elements that you're going to look at. So an element might be, for instance, the windows. Well, the whole thing's not much good without a frame. So if you've got seals going on them, or they are timber and there is a durability issue with them, how long will you normally allow one of these to do? The problem with LCC is you can end up digging too big a hole for yourself.
So you could go really so far with it, like every material there is, you could go into it.
Exactly.
Like
So what
nuts, bolts.
So what you've got to do, yeah, exactly. And what you've got to do is try and be sensible about this. What you're trying to do is highlight to your client big things, not little things.
Like
So if they went for like a timber cladding, that could require regular maintenance, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So that would tie into your cladding options as well.
Yeah.
It would indeed.
Services.
What about services?
Yeah, exactly. Your services, if you look at, for instance, you've chosen a particular renewable that's got a particular lifespan. I mean, I don't know how long those evacuated tubes work on solar versions. I mean, thermos flasks seem to be quite delicate to me. Are they going to be okay for how long? PV's lifetime, they say 25, but I reckon it's closer to 20, and there's a drop off in between. So you can package things together, I think, and you can take them as packages and say the life cycle of this element is X, Y, and Z. And it's also a case of, I don't think you can just sit down and decide to do it today. I think it's one of these things where, I mean, if I was running a team, I would allocate a task to somebody and say, look, you come up with all of the raw data behind this that we need. You organise it in packages, and in the next meeting, tell us all what you've done. Or here are the elements. We're having this, 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 and this. Oh, okay. This is based on decisions that have been made from the rest of the team, which have found out that the cladding is going to be this, because it's very difficult in the life cycle analysis until you've decided what it's going to be. So it's chicken and egg with that one. So that needs to happen. When you've done that, then perhaps if you want to make it an activity which a range of you tackle, then I think you can do it. I don't think you can just walk into it and just do it. I don't think it's going to work.
I found that yesterday.
Yeah.
So don't be too concerned, because frankly I would be amazed if you managed to do it. I
Maybe
really would.
start by going through the planning documents and see what has been specified.
On that note, are we supposed to do, because obviously we've got to make recommendations about alternative claddings, and say we think that one cladding is better than the one that they've got in there already, do we do the life cycle cost to what they've specified or what we specified?
I would say you were doing your life or cycle costs for your decisions.
Okay.
So what you feel is appropriate. What we're looking for is that process having gone through. It's not easy, and as you got the presentation from Steve, it's not a theoretical exercise because it's likely to be coming in to certain methods of procurement. And you're going to have knowledge of it. And we would be extremely remiss as a university to send you out as graduates if you hadn't the faintest idea what an LCC was. So in other words, you don't need to get it spot on, but what you do need to do is it needs to be a brave attempt. Yeah? And you have an idea. When somebody says to you in the office later on, a long time, hence possibly if they decide not to pull their finger out and actually put it into certain of the specifications that you're supposed to undertake, you can actually have a valid viewpoint on it. Yeah, but I wouldn't do it that way. Or, for God's sake, buy the software. Just put the numbers in it. Put the lifetime over the top, put the discount rate at the bottom, and voila! Which might be what you say. You do. Simmer Pro is expensive, however. So for a practice or a contractor to splash out on it, you need a justification. Well, you might just be that justification, because your previous experience might be, do not try and do this by hand. It's nasty. You will spend so many hours that it's not worth it. It's cheaper to buy the software.
Where do we go to get like background information on lifetime costs?
Lifetime
materials?
costs. I think Steve gave some hints at where you will find them. BCIS, I think, was mentioned.
One book as well.
BRE do, like their green materials. They've got
One of the columns I thought had got either a replacement time or some form of time-related element. What I think you need to do is you go as far as you possibly can, and then if you make an assumption, you make an assumption based on some facts, rather than just going
10.
next. You know, making assumptions is not a bad thing. Making assumptions with no background for it is a bad thing.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, whatever you do, be clear why you've done it, and you've got something to back up why you've done that. Even if, a bit of life cycle costing. If you can evidence where it's come from, then that's fine.
Remember, you've got these three assessors in there. Their knowledge of LCC is not exactly going to be huge unless you are unlucky. You pick the only one that really knows their stuff. If that's the case, you are not quite the blind leading the blind, but it should give you a certain amount of confidence that if you made an assumption that you can back up, they might have made the same assumption. Or how do you convince them that they should have made the same assumption?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, as we said, that's the only core one we've got left to do, and then it's starting the management one. We have an issue about, do we put our own names on the work, or is it just presented as a group?
Yeah, very good
Because
question.
we thought it was going to be peer reviewed by us.
No, it's never been peer reviewed. No, the whole thing. I announced the whole thing in the briefing. It wasn't being peer reviewed. The issue is with peer review that we found that a lot of groups will just go, yeah, you all get the same. Or some people gang up on one other person and manipulate it. So peer review, whilst at certain stages, I think, of your development and through the degree is a good thing, we've taken a little bit dimmer view of it for this one. Okay, that's coming from me. And that's partly my philosophy as far as that's concerned. We are, however, trying to make sure that everybody does actually show what they did. Now, the showing what you did bit, I think it's fair, because you not only get marks for group, but you also get marks for individual. And the way we're doing this is that when Jim and I have a look at these, we need names. But when they presented to the assessors, you could, if you wanted to, for them to be nameless. So you can have that lovely, cosy group feeling. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, Because to have people's names on it just ruins the whole point of the team effort.
Yes, and the major team effort is for the assessors, because they're looking at you as, would I give this project to these people? You know, are they the safe pair of hands I believe they are? And if that's the case, then I think your articulation through the documentation you're going to do is going to shout that. However, when children come back, we've got to give individual marks and group work. We've got to give both. So which case there is a bit, and in the way, remember you've got your minutes, which should show how you decided to divvy up the bids so that it was fair. And if they're not fair now, you need to then rethink them so they are fair. Because it needs to be fair, because everybody needs to have a decent stab at getting a good mark, because that's what the projects are partly about. Also, it makes sure that in all groups that everybody does, really try their best.
Yeah, I mean, how do you weigh up someone who's produced a site safety plan to someone who's done a write-up on an alternative cladding system?
I think all you can do is you can look at what you feel is the approximate workload on those, and then divvy up them so that the workload's across. So if somebody's got two smaller things to do, maybe equivalent to one larger thing for somebody else. It's the same thing you'll find out there in good old contracting. You've given me that floor to look at, whereas I've got the whole of that building as a work package. It's not fair. Yeah, but that person's inexperienced and has not worked with this particular material before. You've done 3 years' worth. You know in situ concrete inside out. You're therefore getting that one. Well, yeah, at least you haven't got that foist on you. You've got a little bit more of manoeuvring, which you should really be able to agree with yourselves, and that's part of the team effort. Being able to divvy things out and then allocate them now. And it's better to do it now than just before and just say, you've done nothing, to somebody who hasn't done anything. And that's what you don't want. So you'll gain marks in the group, and you will also gain marks.
Because the way, like some of the big ones, we were separating up into like two people's work, so we just put both names on that piece of work.
Well, previously what we've done is we've asked people to identify the sections they did. So if it's a big chunky document, X was responsible for sections 1 and 2, Y was responsible for sections 3 and 4. Oh, okay, no problem.
So do you want that sheet with everybody's what they've done handed in with the work?
Yes, please. I mean, it depends on the way you want to run it. It's up to you. Some other groups are doing that. And in other words, they're bare when they go to the assessors. So the assessors see everything as one nice unified lump.
So we got to print out 2 copies of everything,
No, just one. Just have a sheet.
saying what we
Which-
did. Okay.
Yeah, which just does. So you don't need two. No, we don't want to burden you with printing costs. Right, that one's yours, and this one's for the assessors. Are you okay about the process on the day?
Not really, no.
No.
Yeah.
Are we getting down there?
Right, coach.
Are we getting a coach, are we?
Coach is taking you down there. Be an early one, but that's such is life, I'm afraid. We're booked in the gallery in Eden. There will be a series of circular tables where and there will be 2 sessions. Session number 1, people will be allocated to, and we'll try and do it randomly as best we can, so you don't know whether you're going to be in session 1 or session 2. I don't think there's necessarily any particular advantage of being in either, because it's going to be identical. You will then put all of your stuff out as you want it. There will be 3 assessors on one side of the table, and you will be the other. They get 40 minutes to read through all your material. So, in other words, you can work to the last minute. Because if they saw it beforehand, then you'd have to put it in, and it's important that I think you get the best chance you can at doing a good job. You set it out. The assessors will then read it for 40 minutes. They'll probably make some notes and start saying, I'd like to question them about this, what about this, how does this fit with that, how are you going to do this, etc., etc. All the usual stuff that you'd expect from the previous times that you've been through the process. You would then get 40 minutes on the other side. So you'll come in, as all the other groups will, or half of the other groups will. You will then be interviewed by the three on the other side of the table. So they'll be talking to you about your particular solutions. How does this work? How does that work? Just like to ask you a question about this, about that. So it's important that you are coherent as a group. You have the opportunity to introduce yourselves and to state some basics to them about, well, our philosophy has been in this instance this, this and this. Our solution shows this, this. If you want to use some drawings or other documents that you've put in front of them, because remember they've read them for 40 minutes, so that's okay. You know, you can lean across and open up something and point and say, here's this, and this is here, and that's that. And then they will then ask you questions about that. You then get the chance right at the end just to say, you know, is there anything we missed? You get the chance of it, and that's it. So it's one shot.
Oh,
It's one shot. So it's different to the previous thing. So it's longer that you get. It's a longer period of time. But you only get one bash at it. It's not two goes. Don't forget, everybody tends to improve in the second one. So that means everybody will be not improved on the first one. So it's in a way, it's a level playing field. The first group then disappear.
6 minutes.
The second lot hand theirs out. Assessors are back in again, reading. Next group comes in, sits down. Same process goes through. When we've finished there, lunch down at Eden. And if we have enough time, you can go for a wander in and around the Eden Gardens before the coach leaves to take us all back. So quite straightforward.
A bottle of champagne.
Yes, well, that's the hope. Yes, exactly. And you know, it's a nice last day for everyone. I think it's normally a good sending off.
Scary. No, it's scary that it's nearly over.
Oh, that is scary because it's not the last day you've got to worry about. It's what's after the last day, and you're changing lifestyles that may have to happen a little bit. But I'm sure you will enjoy it. All the previous groups felt that it was, you know, a big difference to the last end projects that they did previously. They felt it was worth it, going down there and doing it there. Any other questions then about?
Do you think they'll ask us a question about how much the building costs in total to build?
They might do. I mean, I'm going to give the project overview and asking them to stick to the task that you've been asked to do.
They're not going to stray off the tasks.
So
Start asking us questions.
Yeah, they probably can, or they probably will. They're not supposed to. They probably will. There will be an academic there with the two assessors.
I'm just thinking, like, if say we haven't done like pricing up the job, say, and they say, "Oh, do you know how much the total cost of the building's going to be?" And we get,
Well, it's typical a question that they do ask. Yes, you're right, and it might be wise to have ballpark figure from BCIS up your sleeve.
Okay.
With a reference point. It's this because
Assume
rather than
that
just
the
because
building-
you know what people are like.
So we get the squares.
Like assume-
3.4
yeah,
million.
assume that the building's size
You know,
costs.
I think it's much closer to 5, don't you? You always get that, and you just have to put up with that. I'm afraid that's life.
And if you can control things like that, if you get a question like that, hopefully you'll have an answer for it. But if you can then follow it up with, and then taking the cladding in particular, we've found that, and then you're back,
You're
with
in
areas
charge.
that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
You turn it back on
The
the stuff that you
political,
do,
answering the question that you hoped was just
I
asked.
can't answer that, but I can tell you this.
Good. Good. We don't know what it's cost, but it is sunny in St Austell today.
Have we asked everything we need to ask?
Well, thanks for coming along, folks. I hope it's been helpful, sort of
Yeah.
trying to move you forwards.